Hey yogis, thank you for joining me for another online virtual yoga practice. Today is going to be an introduction to inversions practice. So we're going to be looking at the foundations that we need to create a stable structure in our inversion practice. So inversions is any posture where your heart is above your head. It's really good for bringing focus, to bring energy to the mind if you're feeling a little bit groggy. Maybe if you have a headache as well, sometimes this can help. Sometimes it makes it worse. So take it on a case-by-case basis. If it's feeling like there's too much pressure when you're doing the inversions, skip this practice, take something else. But yes, we're going to be working on strengthening the foundation, strengthening the arms in focus to make nice, strong foundations ready for our inversions today. I really hope you enjoy the practice. Please be mindful today as well, especially if you're working with injuries to the neck, the shoulders, things like this. Please take it very gently, very slowly, and modify as needed. I really hope you enjoy your practice today. Thank you for joining me. Namaste. Okay, so we're going to start in our seated position, just taking a little bit of time to connect to the breath. So you can rest your hands on your knees or in your lap. You can take chin mudra if you like, connecting the index finger and the thumb with the remaining 3 fingers stretched out and front palms face up. And just begin to establish the foundations, really root down through the sit bones in the pelvis. And I want you to bring special awareness to the pelvis today, as this is primarily our center of gravity. So as we shift the body and move around into different positions, it's important to be aware of this center of gravity. This is also the root of our spine. So in order to keep the spine nice and strong and in the correct alignment in these postures, it's important that we stabilize the pelvis and make sure that this is our secondary foundations. So obviously we have contact with the earth at all times, with either the floor, with either the feet, the arms, the hands, or whatever it is that you're doing. But I like to think of the pelvis as a secondary addition to that, to strengthen through the spine. If you have a pelvis that's unaligned and unbalanced in the posture, your whole spine is going to be unbalanced and unaligned in the posture as well. So really focus on this today. Really work with strengthening and stabilizing the lower back by keeping a secure and stable pelvis. Create space along the spine, lengthen through to the crown of the head, but stay soft through the shoulders. Don't hold tension as we lengthen. Feel soft through the elbows, soft through the forearms. And connect to your Ujjayi Pranayama, your ocean breathing. No judgments today, no harshness. Inversions can be tricky postures for people. There can be a lot of mental barriers around inversions, as well as physical barriers as well. So listen to your body, don't push. Take one more full breath in. Exhale fully. Bring the palms together at the heart center, gently blinking the eyes open, Namaste. Okay, so we're going to start in a downward puppy pose today, Halasana, half melting pose. So coming onto your hands and knees. You want your knees to be under your hips, but then we're going to walk the hands forward, okay, towards the front of the mat. Release your forehead down towards the earth. If it doesn't reach the earth, then you can place it down to a block or a cushion. Make sure the hips stay stacked over the heels. This should feel like a really deep opening along the backs of the arms. Keep your navel in and up, okay? Protect the lower back from overarching. If you're quite flexible here, it may feel like your belly is kind of dropping down towards the earth. We want to keep the navel drawn in to protect the lower back from overarching, but you really want to be feeling the movement in the upper back, so the chest is melting down towards the earth. Tops of the feet pressing down. Stay stable, connect to your breath. Okay, and then we're just going to take this into a little twist into the shoulders. So looking forward, bring your left arm underneath the right. Maybe you can drop down onto the top of the left shoulder, looking towards the left fingertips. Continue to press firmly through the right hand. Keep the hips over the knees. And the twist should really be coming only from the upper back and the chest. Make sure the hips don't bump off to the side and the lower back stays out of the twist. Inhale, come through center, reach forward. Exhale, right arm to the right, look to the right fingertips as the right shoulder drops down to the earth. Okay, so this is already an inversion. The heart is over the head. Okay, so already here we're setting up our practice, setting up ready. And even if we don't get any further than this today, then this is already going to give us the same benefits of the inversion. Just opening up through the shoulders. Inhale, come through center, press back. One more time, forehead down. Then inhale, come back up. Bring the wrists underneath the shoulders. I'm going to take cat-cow now. So on the inhale, we open up through cow pose. Press the chest forward, let the belly drop down, but keep the navel drawn in as the tailbone reaches up. As we exhale, round into cat pose. Lift and separate those shoulder blades as the crown of the head releases down. Take a couple more of each. Follow your own rhythms, okay? No rush today. We're taking this as a Hatha class, so we're working more with establishing the foundations in the posture as opposed to building up too much energy. We're not sort of flowing too quickly. It's more important that we get the alignment right. We find comfort in the pose compared to how many poses we can kind of squeeze into the practice. Okay, come back to a neutral spine. We're coming to our downward facing dog. So this is really important here, setting up our foundations for our inversions. These are going to be really useful for things later on in our practice. So really make sure we establish here. Bring the palms of the hands forward about a handprint distance. Focus on pressing through the index finger and the thumb, okay? Don't roll out to the little side of the hands. Make sure the wrist creases is facing forward, so that often means the middle finger faces forward. Sometimes it means the index finger faces forward. Depending on the anatomy of your arms, find what works best for you. Elbow creases begin to rotate forward. And then the shoulder blades draw down away from the ears, but they actually protract away from each other. So we don't want the shoulder blades connecting together behind you. You want to be almost lifting out of them. Okay, and then from here, we're going to be tucking the toes under, lift the sit bones up and back. Keep a nice generous bend to the knees to start with here. So just checking again the foundations in the hands. See if you can find a little bit of a lift in the palms of the hands. Shoulders draw away from each other. See if you can activate, this is a little bit tricky, but see if you can activate serratus anterior muscle. Okay, so it's the rib cage muscle, okay, underneath the armpit. See if you can activate that. Notice as that stabilizes the shoulder blades, it stabilizes the joints around the shoulders, and hopefully it makes the posture a little bit more comfortable and less pressure within the joints. Okay, so hopefully that you can kind of activate that. Don't worry if you can't, it's a little bit tricky, but that's really going to help you later on in your practice. Okay, and then from here we lift the sit bones up high, keep the navel drawn in and up as the chest melts down towards the thighs. And then over time we can begin to press the heels down towards the floor, opening up through the hamstrings, the calves, and also the Achilles tendons and the bottoms of the feet. Okay, the legs are the last thing to kind of stretch. Really focus on the foundations of the hands first. On your inhale, look forward. We're going to come into a ragdoll. So keeping the knees really nice and bent. Walk forward. Keep the feet hips distance apart or even wider. Really, really nice big generous bend to the knees. Take opposite hand to opposite elbow. Let the chin drop down towards the shins. The crown of the head releases. Okay, already, again, another inversion. So we've done a few already just in our warm-up. So here you can begin to shake side to side. Maybe begin to bend and straighten one leg at a time. Opening up through the hamstrings, stay soft in the breath, soft in the jaw. How are you feeling in the shoulders? How are you feeling along the length of the spine? So there's a lot of things going into inversions. Obviously there's a lot of different styles of inversions, but as a general rule, being flexible along the hamstrings can be really useful to help you stabilize in inversions. Okay, it helps you to get up, to bring the weight forward usually into the arms. So don't worry if you're not quite open enough in the hamstrings today. Remember to soften, don't push. Okay, and then when you're ready, release the elbows. Staying really nice and bent through the knees, grounded through the feet. Begin to roll up the spine, stacking one vertebrae at a time over the hips, until the chin comes parallel with the floor. So if you're here and you're feeling actually a little bit dizzy or not feeling like that was a particularly nice experience, maybe just take the rest of the practice really slowly or even skip it, okay? So if the inversions aren't for you today, there can be many reasons why they're not feeling good today. then don't do it, okay? Or just modify, don't force yourself. We're gonna take 4 rounds of Surya Namaskara A just to make sure we've moved in all directions before taking it any further. The first round will take it a little bit slower. Okay, so on the inhale, bring the arms up overhead. You can either have the arms shoulder distance apart, palms face each other looking forward, or you can bring the palms together, look up to the thumbs, but keep the front lower ribs in. Don't let them stick out, don't let the tailbone stick out. On the exhale, hinge forward from the hips. You can have a bend in the knees here as you come forward, bringing the hands down to the thighs, shins, or the floor. Or you can have the legs straight, coming into a more of a belly to thighs position, chin to the shin, looking off the tip of the nose. On the inhale, lengthen the spine. So you can either come onto the fingertips or draw the palms up the legs, but keep the hips over the heels as we look forward. On the exhale, bend the knees as much as you need to plant the hands on the floor. Stepping back to a high plank, lower down, either halfway down chaturanga or onto the belly. Knees can be lifted or lowered at this point. On the inhale, either baby cobra, keeping the elbows drawn into the ribs, lifting the chest, or upward facing dog. Make sure you're not compressing in the lower back, you're lengthening your tailbone, and you're bringing the movement into the upper back and the neck, not just the lower back. On the exhale, you can either flip over the feet, roll over the toes, come through tabletop, or just press straight back through downward facing dog, holding for 2 breaths, looking towards either the toes, the knees, or the navel. Okay, set up your foundations here. Remember just to focus on the hands to start with, focus on the arms, see if you can activate that space underneath the armpits, stabilizing the shoulder joint. Breathe fully. Inhale, look forward in as many steps as you need. Come to that halfway lift, lengthen the spine. Exhale, chin to chin, crown of the head releases down. Inhale, coming all the way up, looking towards the thumbs if it feels good on the neck, but keep space in the lower back. Exhale, Samasthiti, second round, inhale, arms up. Exhale, hinge forward. So if the legs are straight, keep the hips out over the heels. Don't let the butt stick out the back. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Lengthen through the upper back, looking forward. Exhale, high to low plank. Whichever variation is most accessible to you. Continue to press through the index finger and the thumb. Inhale. Upward facing or baby cobra, opening through the front side of the body, including the hip flexors, but feeling it in the upper back the most. Exhale. Downward facing, holding for a couple of breaths. Smooth the inhalations to match the exhalations. Inhale, coming forward to that halfway lift position. Exhale, we fold, chin towards shin, lengthen through the backs of the legs. Feel the pelvis rotate around the heads of the femurs. Inhale, coming all the way up. Exhale, return to your mountain pose again. Inhale. Exhale. Inhaling, exhaling. Have control as you lower. Inhale, exhale. Holding for 2 breaths. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Last round, take it at your own pace. When you reach down dog, hold it for 2 of your breaths. When you reach mountain pose, just take your palms to the heart center and take a couple of breaths. Okay, and then from here we're going to come into a standing forward fold. So either Uttanasana or Padangusthasana. Bring the hands to the waist, fingertips towards the navel, feet hips distance apart now. Inhale, lengthen through the spine, elbows draw back behind you. And on the exhale, we can begin to hinge forward from the hips. So if you're quite tight in the hamstrings, I recommend you start here with a generous bend to the knees, bringing towards the hands towards the thighs or the shins. If you're quite open in the backs of the legs, you can have the legs straight. Make sure the hips remain stacked over the heels. You're also welcome to take the peace fingers around the big toes, pressing the toes in towards the fingers. Inhale, lengthen the spine. And then on the exhale, bring the chin towards the shins, crown of the head releases down, elbows draw wide away from each other, shoulder blades protract away from each other, but they also draw down and away from the ears. So there's plenty of space around the neck and the head. Find one steady gaze point looking off the tip of the nose. Keep the navel drawn in and up, creating space for the pelvis to rotate around the head of the femurs. So this should feel like a nice stretch in the backs of the legs. There should be no tension in the lower back or the shoulders. Inhale, head up, look forward, arms straight. Exhale fully. And then on the inhale, bring the hands to the waist. Again, you can have a nice generous bend to the knees as we come all the way back up to standing. And again, exhale. Okay, good. So from here, we're now going to come into wide leg forward fold with the chest expansion. So we're going to interlace the fingers behind the back, okay, like this. We're going to have the fists drawing away from each other. Now, if you have a tendency to hyperextend in the elbows, you have this common tendency, then I recommend that you draw the palms facing outwards instead, okay? If all of that is too much or you're working with shoulder injuries, just keep the hands to the waist, but the elbows continue to draw back behind you. Okay, we're going to bring the feet to about 5 feet wide, toes face towards each other a little bit. Inhale, lengthen the spine, draw the fists down, and then exhale, begin to hinge forward from the hips. Okay, so ultimately the crown of the head draws down towards the floor. We'll be here for about 5 breaths, so find your foundation, stabilize the legs, stay active through the quadriceps as we draw the kneecaps up. Feel the stretch in the inner thighs and the hamstrings, and then ultimately the crown of the head releases down, getting a nice stretch to the space between each vertebrae. A strong inversion here, but be mindful of the shoulders, okay? We're opening up through the chest and the arms, but be mindful there should be no pain, no sharp sensation in the shoulder blades, the rotator cuff muscles. Okay, on the inhalation, keep the navel drawn in. We're leading with the belly, soft through the neck as we come all the way back up to standing. And then as we exhale, we heel toe or step the feet back to the mountain pose at the front of the mat, releasing the arms. Moving through to our seated portion of the practice on our backs. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, hinge forward from the hips. Inhale, lengthen the spine, look forward. Exhale, coming back through high to low plank. Keep firm through the index finger and the thumb. Inhale. Upward facing or baby cobra, lengthens through the lower back, don't overextend. Exhale, pressing back, downward facing dog. Okay, so we're going to come down onto a child's pose first, drop to the shins. Keep the arms extended out in front. You can have your knees together or knees mat distance apart, toes touching. Keep extended through the elbows at this point. Feel the shoulders gently opening up. Feel lengthen through the chest. Feel the space being created around the side ribs. And try to maintain your steady breath, okay? You're breathing with sound. And if it's too much for the forehead to reach the earth, you can place a block underneath the forehead. And if the hips don't quite reach the heels, you can place a blanket between the thighs and the calves. Take one more full breath. Inhale, walk the hands back up. Sit the hips off to one side, extend the legs out in front. We're going to come into a bridge pose, setu bandasana. So watch if you need to first. Try to avoid moving your head from side to side in all of these postures. We're coming down to lay on our backs. Bringing the heels in towards the sit bones. You want your ankles to be underneath your knees. You want your knees and ankles to both be hips distance apart, but you want your toes to be facing in towards each other a tiny little bit. Bring the arms alongside the body, palms face down, strengthens through the palms of the hands. And then on the inhalation, okay, before we even begin to move the hips, lengthen through the lower back. Strong through the backs of the arms, the back of the head. Lengthen so that the curvature of the spine is now pressing down into the lower back. The tailbone reaches up towards the backs of the knees. Okay, we lift the hips up. Okay, opening up through the hip flexors. Continue to press down through the heels of the feet as the weight shifts backwards into the upper body, the shoulders and the head. You're welcome to stay here, or you can interlace the fingers, roll onto the tops of the shoulders one at a time, taking the chest expansion, chest towards chin, as the chin continues to draw away from the chest. Okay, pressing through the heels of the feet, make sure the toes continue to stay facing inwards. Make sure the knees don't collapse any wider than hips distance apart. Press firmly through the back of the head as the chin draws away from the chest, and avoid over squeezing the glutes. Okay, have control over the glutes, using the muscles of the spine and the hamstrings to help you support here. Breathing into the chest, and keeping the navel drawn in and up. A small activation of the abdominals to help protect the overarch of the lumbar spine, which has a tendency to be hypermobile in many of us. One more breath in, and then exhale, release the arms, very gently roll back down. So hopefully you're feeling a little bit of strength building in the backs of the legs, maybe the spine as well. Okay, so taking what we just did in setu bandasana, we're now going to move into sarvangasana, shoulder stand. So if you have high blood pressure, glaucoma, neck, head, shoulder injuries, ladies on your menstrual cycle, please take legs up the wall pose instead by coming onto your back, bringing your legs up towards the sky. You can also have a block underneath the sacrum, the pelvis, the flat part of the spine, and lifting your hips up. This will help give you a slightly greater inversion without putting the neck and the head at risk. Okay, so we're working with that. If you wanted to take shoulder stand but you're not sure what it looks like, feel free to watch me first. So we're going to move into shoulder stand, then plough pose, then ear pressure pose. So if at any point you want to come out, check what's going on, you're welcome to do that. Otherwise you can just listen to the cues. Make sure you don't move your head from side to side. So we're going to start with the legs long in front of us, arms alongside the body, palms face down. On the exhalation, we're going to bring the knees to the forehead. Okay, so use your core to help you get it there. You can keep the palms on the floor, face down alongside the body, or if you're feeling quite stable, bring your hands to the lower back, palms flat to the lower back, fingers face up towards the sky. Make sure your elbows don't go wider than your shoulders. From here, press into the backs of the arms, press into the back of the head. This is your foundation. Okay, don't let the neck rest on the earth. If you feel good, you can begin to bring the legs towards straight. Make sure you really press through the backs of the arms here, toes together, look up. Okay, you can give a little bit of a squeeze to the glutes to bring the hips over the shoulders, and over time you can draw your palms further down your back towards the shoulders. Okay, but really, really check in with your foundations. Press through the backs of the arms, the back of the head. Keep the chin away from the chest as the chest and the torso moves closer towards the chin. Okay, you're welcome to stay here, one more breath. Or if you'd like, Halasana, bring the legs behind the head. So the toes are reaching to the space behind the head. If the toes don't reach the floor, keep the hands on the lower back for support. If they do reach the floor comfortably, then you're welcome to interlace the fingers behind the back, rolling onto the tops of the shoulders, pressing the arms back firmly into the mat, pressing the back of the head firmly into the mat, and keeping the legs straight. So we're really stretching the hamstrings here. If the toes comfortably reach the floor, then I recommend that you come onto the tops of the feet. This will help the hips slide over the shoulders. Okay, Okay, and working the backs of the legs. Active through the quadriceps, pressing the backs of the knees up towards the sky, reaching up through the sit bones, but strong through the foundations. One more breath here. It's a little bit more restrictive, but try to breathe anyway. And then Karna pidasana, ear pressure pose. We bend the knees so the shins come to the floor alongside the head, squeezing the knees towards the ears, toes together, heels together. Lift those sit bones up, strong through the foundations. On the exhale, bring the knees to the forehead. Sorry, I hope you can hear me okay. Bring the arms alongside the body, palms face down. We're very gently going to release, okay? So slowly as you can, use your core muscles to help you from rolling off the front of the mat. And then we're going to come down, setting up for fish pose, which is our counter posture. So our legs long now, coming flat onto the floor. Place the thumbs underneath the sit bones, okay? And then on the inhalation, we're going to press up strong through the forearms, lift through the center of the chest, the sternum, and then exhale, release the crown of the head behind us. Okay, it doesn't matter if it reaches the floor. What matters is the openness, the lift in the throat and the collarbone. Looking towards the back of the mat, keep the toes pointing, legs together. One more full breath in. Exhale, chin to chest, look forward. Release the forearms from underneath you and gently roll back down. Okay, so you're probably feeling not quite settled in the spine at this point because we've just done a lot of flexion in the spine in our shoulder stands. So we're going to vinyasa, another sun salutation, just to make sure we realign ourselves, wake up all the muscles within the body again. So you can either roll to the right hand side, press up to a seat, or if you'd like, I like this option after shoulder stands, roll along the length of the spines, cross at the shins. When we get up to the top, bring the palms in front of the legs, press back, exhale, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing. Be soft here, okay? Don't push, be gentle with your body. Exhale, downward facing. Okay, from here we have the option to try either headstand or headstand prep. So drop to the knees. Same contraindications as before. Don't take this if you have any injuries to your neck, head, shoulders. If you're on your menstrual cycle as well, please take the variation, not the full expression of the posture. So, this is an intense posture, but really, it's a great posture for building up strength and stability within the upper body. In yoga, we do so many postures that stabilize and strengthen the lower body, the legs. We work with the balance in the legs, but this is working with the upper body, working with strengthening the shoulder girdle, strengthening the muscles around the upper body and the chest. Okay, so that being said, if you're not feeling it, don't put the pressure on the neck, don't force it today. So you're welcome to just take dolphin prep, which I'll show you in a moment, or if we're going to set up for headstand, we're going to take supported headstand. Okay, so this is the safest option for the neck. It's also the most effective at strengthening the arms and the upper body. So I'll show you from here. Our foundations. Take opposite hand to opposite bicep, tricep. That's the distance you want your arms to be away from each other. From there, bring the palms of the hands together, interlace the fingers. There's a couple of different schools of what you can do in this variation. So for some people, they prefer to put the back of the head between the wrists and create almost like a tennis ball shape with their hands for support. Other people prefer to open up the palms of the hands and place the head between the palms of the hands. Find whichever works best for you, whichever feels the most supportive to you today. If you have your hair in a ponytail, I'm afraid you might need to kind of adjust around that. So be mindful, get comfortable in your foundations. So if you want to just work with that, setting up the foundations here, avoid, first things first, don't let the shoulders drop up by the ears, okay? We want to keep engaged. The shoulder blades draw away from each other and we activate, okay? We lift out of the shoulders, okay? It's a big difference, and that's where the strength's going to come in. You can work with this, tucking the toes under, lifting the hips high, working in a dolphin position. You can feel this opening, strengthening the muscles around the arms. If you wanted to give headstand a try, you can just take the beginning postures and then you don't ever have to leave the floor. If you want to give it a go, Find your foundations and then bring the crown of the head to the floor, taking just as much time to set up the foundations here. Make sure you lift the shoulders out. Don't let them drop by the ears, okay? Press firmly through the forearms. From here, we're then going to tuck the toes under, walk the feet in. This may feel like enough for you working with the foundations. Once the hips are over the heels, you can bring one leg up, maybe two, coming into kind of like an egg position. Work with this. And then over time, maybe you can bring the legs towards straight. Keep the toes together, pointing up towards the sky if the legs are straight. Pelvis moves into a slight posterior tilt, which means the tailbone reaches towards the backs of the heels. This helps keep a neutral spine as opposed to an overarching spine where the hips drop back. I recommend if you're just starting out that you find a wall or someone to hold you or support you, making sure you don't fall backwards. Okay, keep the navel in. Press, press, press through the forearms. Find one steady gaze point that doesn't move. And steady your breath. Breathe, don't forget to breathe. One more full breath in. On the exhale, try to come out the same way you came in. So bending the knees. Coming into that kind of egg position. And then lower down. Everybody child's pose, everybody. Fingers interlaced overhead. Keep them stable. Press the hips back to the heels. Okay. Let the neck soften, let the jaw soften. It's an intense pose. Don't be too hard on yourself if you didn't make it up today. It doesn't matter. These things are supposed to be fun, and they can be really good fun, but the moment you start attaching expectations and judgments on what you think you should look like or feel like in a posture, then that's when it starts to become about the ego. And that's completely the opposite intention of what yoga should be about. We should be putting ourselves into these places of discomfort and finding comfort in those places. But if you're just finding discomfort on discomfort, then there's no point. You're just going to stress yourself out. Take one more breath in. Exhale fully. Begin to walk the hands back up. Okay, now Shavasana. If you need to take any movements before you rest, please feel free to do that. It's been an intense practice. Please make sure you do take as long as you need today. At least 5 minutes if you can. Release your arms alongside the body, release the legs. Let the shoulders really melt down and away from the ears. Feel soft through the legs, the ankles, the wrists, the forearms, the palms of the hands. Release the low belly, release the yoga breath, and allow your natural fluid breath to return, expanding down and fully into the abdomen. And let the mind quiet. So you may find that your mind is a little bit more active than it was before. That's good. It means we've brought all that energy into the head. We've done so many inversions. It's probably super focused right now. You've probably got laser focus. So just make sure that you keep it still for the next few minutes. And then once you're ready to release and come back to the rest of your day, you're hopefully going to feel a little bit more energized, a little bit more directional. As I said, please take as long as you need in your Shavasana today, your well-earned Shavasana today as you go forward. I wish you peace in your thoughts, peace in your words, peace in your heart. Namaste.